Welcome to the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast. Today our topic is investing and architecture.
Welcome to the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast with Scott Whitwam, your blueprint to financial abundance. Settle in as we explore the mindset and methods for wealth building through real estate.
Welcome back. I'm Scott Whitwam, and I'm glad you've joined me for real estate investing and architecture. As a real estate investor for many years, I found that some decisions or actions or even investments that add and enhance profits are very clear. And then there are other decisions that we make that can be very costly and detrimental to the bottom line. Each correct choice we make is an opportunity to seize a building block or a key that unlocks our real estate investing success. If you can unlock these doors, you have access to making game-changing money. Most investors, me included, have reached a point where we realize doing it on our own is a very slow and painful process. To help us get to our next level, I've invited Chris Everett to come and discuss his technical industry of architecture. Chris is the owner of All Technique. Chris, welcome to the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you could make time to be here and work this into your schedule to be here actually in the podcast studio. I know you had some other obligations and stuff. So let me ask you to get started. Can you share a little bit of experience about your architectural background and experience?
Sure. Okay, well, in 92, I was a freshman in high school in Omaha, Nebraska, and that's where I started to learn AutoCAD, which is the software that I use to produce plans and pretty much draw anything I desire, I guess. CAD is a very extensive program, and you can use it for many different trades and fields in the industry. But I started learning CAD as a freshman in high school, learned all 4 years. I learned CAD all 4 years of my high school journey. And then when I got out, I came out here to go to High Tech Institute, which was a trade school that existed at the time in 1996. I realized I was a lot more advanced than most students and everybody that was taking those courses. So I decided to quit the trade school, and then I got a job doing civil engineering here with Wood Patel, which is one of the number one civil engineering firms here in Arizona. So I was with Wood Patel for about 16 years, and I gained experience, all my civil experience with them. And then also, at the same time I started learning AutoCAD, I started in construction. I started in building decks for a summer job with one of my buddies, and I had a painting job as well. So I started both about the same time when I was about 15, 16 years old, and have just built upon that experience ever since. Like I said, with the civil job, also with running a finished carpentry company, did all aspects of finished carpentry and cabinet installs. So my experience is kind of a broad spectrum in the construction industry. So that's kind of how I got started.
Well, what inspired you then? I mean, obviously you were in civil engineering, you were working for Patel, and you were doing these other things. But what kind of inspired you to start All Technique? I mean, again, you're a contractor, you're doing some of these other things. And at one point you just had to say, well, I'm going to go and do this myself.
Well, it's a funny thing. All Technique came from a little side business I started when I was out here. It was in between when I moved here for the first time and started the civil engineering job. And I've always worked on cars and did a lot of car audio, car alarms. And that was kind of a spin-off. All Technique was for car alarms and car stereos and audio and things like that. And I did that for a while, and I played around, built some limos, some party buses, and things like that. But All Technique was kind of this existing entity in the background for so many years. And then after I got to a point with different experiences with the civil and with construction and everything, I decided to transition into plans and permitting and use my experience in those areas instead of working physical labor, running a company. I'm out driving around, it's a lot. I'm using my body instead of my mind. So that's kind of where I transition. It's like, I need to use my brain and my experience.
Well, I'm really curious about limos and party buses, because that seems like an interesting place for a civil engineer, an architect to kind of go into doing limos and party buses. So.
Yeah, it was, I've been gifted with a lot of skills, and I just happen to do a lot of custom things, whether it's in automotive or construction or you name it. I've been blessed to be able to use my skills in different areas, and that was just one of the things I kind of fell into as kind of a hobby / business. I never really pursued it as a business because I was doing this. But yeah.
Well, let me ask you this then. Are there any like restrictions on what you can do then as an architect? I mean, can you only work commercial? Do you only work residential? Do you work a broad spectrum industrial? Kind of what would limit your ability as far as being involved with architecture and some of these other areas?
Well, nothing really. Actually, I do residential and commercial, both civil and architectural, which architectural includes mechanical, plumbing, electrical, structural. Now I have a team of other engineers I utilize for different trades on plans if needed. But for residential, I do architectural, mechanical, plumbing, and electrical. Structural is the only one I need to involve when we're talking residential, if there's any structural members or additions or anything like that. So really, there's really nothing that I can't provide as far as plans and permitting. And if there's, for some reason, I can't facilitate it, I have somebody on my team that can. So.
Now, I work primarily, in the residential side of things, whether it's single family or multifamily sides of things. But what is the value for somebody like me who's an investor on the residential side to want to have an architect in his Rolodex? What do I want to have you available in case I need some? I mean, I'm doing residential stuff. Can't we do most of the stuff that architects can do kind of on our own? I mean, what do you run into with problems and those kind of things?
Sure, you can. I mean, anybody's free to go about a project without any planning or plans or engineering or, permitting or, any of that. But what's your end product going to be? The reason, you would involve somebody like me is to get an efficient project, have a plan, your quantities, you have a vision, you have a design, you have the permitting. So if say you didn't do permitting and you got caught, let's say, well, now you have to pay fines, you have a delay in the process, they put a stop work order on your project, and you still have to go through the process anyway. And if it's livable space, you won't be able to count that on the assessor or in your listing as livable space unless it's permitted. So there's different aspects that you have to look at when you're doing, and depending on the scope of your work and the type of project you're doing.
I always say it's all good till it isn't. So you do the work without the proper plans and stuff, and then there's a problem. Mm-hmm. A deck collapses, stairways give way, foundation starts to sink. Some of those kind of things, and then you run into real problems, and there's potentially liability that you can run into also. But one of the things that I know from the residential side, because everything is square footage based. The more square footage you have, the more value you have in a residence. And so if you're going to add square footage, I mean, it's not the kind of thing you can just go out and, start building. I mean, it really needs to be designed, because you got to have proper footers. You got to make sure now that you've got load-bearing strength for windstorms and all of that. What kind of value do you bring then to that kind of project that could add value to a house? Because if I've got a 1,500 square foot house and I can make it a 1,900 square foot house, maybe add an additional bedroom, I would think that would be something that you could probably lend to bring some value.
Definitely. And we want to make sure, like I said before, it's about the end product. And we have to adhere, one, to engineering, and two, to code. So you have all these building codes, IRC, IBC, IEBC, plumbing code, electrical code. You have to adhere to all these, as well as build a product that's going to, support you as a person to be able to walk upstairs, or a beam that's going to support an opening, so you're not having issues later. You don't have settling, like you said, and footings and things of that sort, because
Sagging
it's been
ceilings.
sagging ceilings. It's because it's engineered. We look at the spans, we look at the loads that are that the members are taking on, and we have to engineer for that, so you don't have those issues.
Now, I would imagine that the codes in each state is different. Now, you personally live in the state of Arizona, but what states can you operate in? What can you provide, architectural and design and stuff for?
Okay, so yes, codes are different in each jurisdiction, but they all adhere to the IBC, the IEBC, the plumbing code, the electrical code. They adhere to all those codes nationally, but each jurisdiction has amendments to those codes, and they're all different. Phoenix is different than Buckeye, is different than Gilbert. They all have their own little tweaks to the code, and so it just depends on the jurisdiction. You just got to look at their current codes. I can facilitate plans and permitting in any state across the U.S. I have a team of engineers who are licensed in different states, but I also have engineers in different states if I don't have them here. So I do have a pretty wide range of area that I can facilitate my services for.
So if somebody wanted to, we'll say, update a kitchen, they've got a dividing wall, they've got, they don't have any island, the space is cramped. That's the kind of thing that you could come in and provide an architectural plan, maybe with the goal of providing a cabinet layout, a lighting design layout, and those type of things. That's something that you do for people?
Definitely. That's more on the smaller spectrum of what I can do. But if you come in, you're doing a remodel, flip, whatever it is, you want to redesign the kitchen so it's more efficient, you have better use of space, and then you have an idea for cabinet layout, and we can draw that up. I can actually provide cabinet designs and renderings and elevations for those as well. I'm a distributor for a couple different cabinet companies. So yes, I can definitely. Kitchen design, bathroom design is something that I can do. Draw renderings, get a really nice design, pick out finishes to whatever level you want to take it to.
Well, I know a lot of the investors that I work with and coach. That we've got people that are buy and hold, they're multifamily. We got fix and flippers. We got people that are doing short-term rentals, whether it's the higher end Airbnb where they want a really nice product and those type of things. And with your experience and being able to do some of this type of stuff, I think it would be really beneficial for them. And what would be really good, and I don't know your schedule, but what would be really good to do is to see if I could get you to come back, and whether it's next week or another time when you're available, and let's do another show, and let's just talk about kitchen remodels, because nothing adds more value to a residential space, someplace where somebody has to live, than a kitchen. You think that's something that you could potentially accommodate for us?
Yeah, definitely. It'd be my pleasure to come back and discuss that.
Yeah, I think that'd be great, because, and then we can get into a little bit more about your experience, because you get experience not only, obviously with the architectural side of things, the layout, the cabinets, the cabinet distribution, the cabinet plans, those kind of things, but also lighting is another big thing. Yep. And lighting makes a huge difference in any space of the house. I don't care whether it's a master, bathroom, or whether it's a kitchen. And so if you can come back, I think that would be a really good place to take a show and give some real value and benefit to the podcast listeners. What do you think about that?
I agree. I think, Lighting really adds another dimension to your lifestyle and your living environment, and that's what we provide there. We do ergonomic lighting, so we don't just throw lights in your house. We actually look at your lifestyle, how you live, your environment, and we try to light that up. So it's really unique.
Well, that's awesome. Unfortunately, we're out of time. We've been talking with Chris Everett from All Technique. And since we're out of time for the episode this day, I just want to thank Chris so much for being part of the show. And let's see if we can coordinate and get you back next week.
Yes, sir. Sounds good.
All right. You've been listening to the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast. We've come to the end of today's episode. But for a limited time, as a podcast listener, you can get a copy of my new book, No Money Down, Your Path to Real Estate Investing with No or Low Down Payment, absolutely free. Just by using the QR code available, if you're watching this on the video version of the podcast, or going to www.nomoneydowncoach.com. That's www.nomoneydowncoach.com. I want to thank you for taking time to listen. If you found this episode on real estate investing architecture helpful, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. And if you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you. We love to answer your questions and be able to sometimes find new topics just from your questions. You can always find the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart Podcast, YouTube, or wherever you enjoy listening to the podcast. This is Scott Whitwam. Be sure to join me on our next episode of the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast, where we're wealth building through real estate.